Hi there, I'm Diane Kimsey, and I am your math consulting teacher for pre-K through 5th grade. And today we're going to talk about part 2 with Eureka Math. I love Eureka Math and I can talk about it forever, so I'm looking forward to this. We're going to be talking about preparation and customization for a lesson. And something that you're going to hear often used is being intentional. Making plans, just not saying, all right, kids, turn to the next page. That's not how we teach. And so we need to be intentional. That means that we need to know what it is we're teaching. And so with that being said, let's get started. I'm going to bring up my screen, so give me just a second, please. All right, as I shared in part 1, again, this is part 2. Eureka Math is part of a group. The mother group is called Great Minds. And so you will be getting an email from somebody within 501, within our school district, with an invitation to join Great Minds website. And when you do, join then. Please don't go out and join on your own, because parts of this program actually cost money. And so we will take care of that for you. The part that I like to focus on is right here, called the Eureka Navigator. This is your entire Eureka book. So let's go ahead and bring it up. This is your entire math book. As I shared yesterday, this Navigator page right here shows you everything from pre-K all the way to grade 5. We can switch over here to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math, and also up to the high school, so the 9, 10, 11, 12, the really scary stuff. All right, so let's go back to the pre-K through 5th grade. This is where we will be. All right, some school districts across the United States, they're in trimesters. And so if you look over here on the left, it's set up with trimesters. We, of course, are on quarter system. And so over here on the right, the first quarter, second, third, and fourth. So when you're looking at this and trying to figure out where should I be, it's the second quarter of the school year. Last week was basically Halloween. Now we're in between Halloween to Christmas. That's your second quarter. And so where should I be in my math book? Well, if I am 4th grade, I should be in the middle of module 3. And by the time we go on Christmas break, I should probably be in the middle of module 4. So that kind of gives you an idea of how to track where you're at. We will also, as a school district, have a guide for you that gives you really even the specific dates as to when you should be starting and when you should be ending. All right, my friends, today we're going to go to grade 4, and we're going to go down to module number 3. Just a second, I didn't write down. Yes, module 3. So when I hover over these, it tells me what it is that we're going to be teaching. In grade 4, module 1, it's place value. Grade 4, module 2, we're getting into conversions. This is inches to feet, feet to yards, yards even to miles. This is with weight, with milliliters and liters to teaspoons, tablespoons, cups, and so on, okay, up to gallons. So we're going to look right here at module 3, and we're going to get into multi-digit multiplication and division. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. What I'm sharing with you today is the same. It doesn't matter if it's pre-K, it doesn't matter if it's 12th grade, or if it's 4th grade. So what I'm sharing with you is the same plan the whole way through. In doing preparation and customization, something that Eureka Math likes to do things in groups of 3. In part 1, in the introduction, I told you about concrete, representational, and abstract math problems. Concrete being something you can actually touch, manipulate. Representational would be drawing out the pictures. And then abstract's writing the actual math problem out or using your words to explain your answers, okay? Now today, the 3 words that we're going to be talking about, the 3 parts, will be discern the plot. We're going to talk about find the ladder, and the last one is hone, hone the lesson. I just went blank there for a second. So the first part is discern the plot. Well, when I think of discern the plot, I think of plot, I actually think of reading. And so Eureka Math likes to say that they are set up much like a wonderful novel. And each of the modules are a different chapter in this wonderful novel that you're reading. And so it's so important. I'm going to go back just one here. I'm going to go back to here. It is so important that when you teach Eureka Math, you teach it one module, of course, at a time, but you teach them in order. So module 1, then 2, then 3. You keep them in order. It's much, again, like reading a novel. You wouldn't go from chapter 3 and say, oh, I'm going to go down here and read chapter 8, and then I'm going to come back to 4, then I'm going to go to 10. It wouldn't, the novel wouldn't make much sense. And so it's the same thing with Eureka Math. We need to teach the modules in order, much like reading a book. So let's go back to this. Discern the plot. Discern means that we're going to look deeper into something, okay? We're going to look deeper into what is the meaning behind this particular objective. And so that's discern the plot. And then we're going to do what's called find the ladder. And, you know, I'm kind of a chicken when it comes to ladders. I don't like to climb to the very top. I don't mind the first couple rungs. I'm good. But that top rung, my knees start to shake. And so in find the ladder, what that means is the way that Eureka is set up, the first math problem, it's pretty doable. We don't like to say easy, we like to say doable. It's pretty doable for the majority of the kids in your classroom. And as you go up that ladder, again, it gets a little bit harder. So the progression gets a little bit harder. Then hone the lesson. I remember when I was little, my mom would get her sewing scissors honed. And honed means to sharpen. Okay, to sharpen. And so what we're going to do is go in and we're going to sharpen up this lesson so it meets the needs of all of our students. It meets the needs of those who need the lesson extended. It's going to meet the needs of the average student, and it's going to meet the needs of those who are struggling with this. This is a little too difficult. So again, we're going to make intentional choices. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to jump down here to module 3. And again, we already looked and it said that it's about multiplication and division. I'm going to make sure that I go in and look at the teacher's module. So we'll click on here and bring it up. We're going to look at that table of contents, much like we did back in part 1 of this. And we're going to see how it progresses. How does this get more difficult? And so let's just take a look here at the first half before we get to the mid-module assessment. So we're going to get into comparison word problems right off the bat. We're going to multiply times 10, times 100, times 1,000. We're going to multiply up to 4 digits times a single digit number. And then we're going to multiply with word problems. And so it's progressively, we're moving up that ladder, that difficulty, the difficulty levels. So the first half of this module is multiplication. Well, if we're doing multiplication and division, obviously the second part is division. Let's take a look. Division of tens and ones, reasoning with divisibility, division of thousands, hundreds, tens, and ones, kind of similar to topic B up there, but going with division. And then topic H, multiplication of 2-digit by 2-digit numbers, and then we're going to take the assessment. I'm going to slide on down to the next part here, and it's the overview of the lesson. And I love how they show you, this is what you are going to do as a teacher in helping to teach your kids, helping to teach your students. This is the representational part. These are the kind of things that you're going to be drawing up there on your whiteboard and helping the kids then draw on their whiteboards to better understand the math. Take a look at this, 4 tens times 3 equals 12 tens. And so it's very important that you understand the vocabulary, just as we talked about yesterday. Again, the representation. And it's so important that you teach it the Eureka way. Remember, we talked about yesterday in part 1, that if last year the 3rd grade teacher, because we're all pretending we're 4th grade teachers here, last year the 3rd grade teachers, and there were 2 of them, we'll pretend, and teacher A totally did it the Eureka way. And so when the kids come to you and you're talking to them about making an area model to help them with the multiplication. Take a look at how they're doing doing it down here as in the abstract, in the math problem type. Okay, so they're saying that 3 times 3 equals 9. They're even labeling it over here for the kids who are just getting started and understanding this, to moving up to being able to do it the way that by the time we're done with this unit, we're hoping every child can. Now the other teacher, the other 3rd grade teacher said, you know what, I'm going to do it my way, because this just doesn't make sense. And so all of her 3rd grade students missed out on learning it the Eureka way. Now they come to you. Half of the kids in your classroom came from teacher A, half came from teacher B. And you're saying, all right, kids, we're going to make an area model today. What just happened to half of your students? They checked out. They're like, I have no clue what you're talking about. Please make sure you're teaching it the Eureka way. So next year when your children go on to the next grade level, they know the vocabulary, they know the models, they know what is being taught. Please don't let you get in the way of how to teach the Eureka math. I just can't express that enough. All right, we're going to keep on going. So again, representation, and it's so important that you recreate these things for kids. You know, this is a great way of teaching division right here, using the number bonds. And number bonds are something that the kids are so comfortable with. They learned them back in preschool, kindergarten, 1st grade. They were totally cemented. They totally understood them. You bring up the number bonds, they're like, oh, I can do this. I understand number bonds. They're comfortable. All right, we keep moving down. We show the kids the parts before we show them the whole. It's just very important that they understand that. Here are all the standards that you're going to be teaching. And again, just like we talked about in part 1, it's so important that you read them. You're not necessarily teaching the next page in the math book, you're teaching the standard. And so when you do teach that next page in the math book, you're able to say, that's the part of the standard that I'm teaching. I'm teaching maybe how to represent these problems using an equation with a letter. Maybe that's the only part that you're teaching today. Please know your standards. Please read them. Take them apart with your fellow teachers. All right, so here we are in the overview. This is the part I was wanting to talk about. So in topic A, take a look, my friends, we have 4 different standards that we're going to go over. Again, do you know what these standards are? No, of course not. So we need to go back up and read them. We have 3 lessons, but we have 4 standards. We have 4 standards, 3 lessons, and we are to teach this in 3 days. Let's again look at what we talked about yesterday. That a math lesson, the way that Eureka sets up their math lessons again is a concrete, then representational, and moving to the abstract. Concrete again, working with a manipulative. Representational, you're able to draw it out. Abstract, you're able to write it out. You're able to use your words and not just write a math problem, but use your words and write maybe 2 or 3 sentences as to why this is the answer. So let's take a look at this. We're going to start by investigating. We're going to use formulas for area and perimeter. Okay. We're going to solve multiplicative, I have a difficult time saying that, comparison word problems by applying the area and perimeter formulas. So lesson 1, we've got to get area and perimeter down pat, because next we're going to apply them to help us with multiplication. And then we're going to demonstrate an understanding of area and perimeter. So if we're doing that, then we're going to be doing this, multi-step real world problems. So you see how it progresses. As we go from one lesson to the next lesson, it just gets that much more difficult. All right, so the progression is there. Then we're going to go into topic B, and remember we read that it's multiplication by 10, 100, 1000. Let's take a look at this. Interpret and represent patterns. All right, multiply multiples of 10, 100, 1000 by single digits. And again, recognizing patterns. We're seeing this word patterns being repeated. So it'd be a great time to refresh their little brains about patterns. And lesson 6, multiply 2-digit numbers by 10, by 2-digit multiples of 10 with the area model. All right, so we're bringing in that area model again, and area is what we taught up here on lesson 1, and it's going to continue. You're going to see that area model continue throughout this entire module. All right, so we looked at the lesson objectives. We're going to pretend that we went all the way through. There's your mid-module assessment after teaching 13 lessons. All right, come on down, and then you have your second half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have 8 lessons here, and two standards this time in division. All righty, and it's going to go on to the next page. My goodness. So 43 days to teach this module. 43 days in school, that's basically 9 weeks of school. So this is basically going to take you 1 entire quarter of school to teach. So you see how important this is, that the kids understand it. You see how important it is that you are prepared to teach it. All right, so we've gone through, we've looked at the table of contents, we've looked at what we call the module overview, and so now we're ready to dig into the lesson a little bit. And I'm going to assume that with your instructional coach, with your professional learning team, you've gone through, you've looked at the standards, because using the standards is how you're going to help write your learning intentions and your success criteria. All right, so we're going to go down. We're going to go all the way down to lesson 36. So we've already taught the first half of this module. We're going to jump all the way down here to lesson 36. And so we are in module H, we're in topic H. We're in the very last topic of this module. And so the kids are pretty successful at this moment, okay? So we have multiplied 2-digit multiples by 10 by 2-digit numbers using place value chart, multiply 2-digit multiples by 10, multiply 2-digit numbers. You're seeing that throughout here, okay? Transition from 4 partial products to the standard algorithm for 2-digit by 2-digit. You see how important it is to know your vocabulary and know what in the world does this mean? Because these are the learning objectives. This is what you're going to have to teach your kids. I'm going to go ahead, bring up here, multiply 2-digit by 2-digit numbers using 4 partial products. Again, pretty much every single Eureka math lesson at the 4th grade level, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade level is going to take you 60 minutes to teach. Here is a peek at your entire full lesson, the problem set, and the exit ticket. The first thing I'm going to look at is the exit ticket, because the exit ticket is telling me what is it that I, as the classroom teacher, must make sure that my students know how to do in order to be successful with this lesson. So I'm going to bring up the exit ticket. That's the first thing I'm going to look at. I'm going to pay attention, very, very close attention to the vocabulary. There happens to be just 2 math problems. Just 2 math problems, 2-digit times 2-digit. Now let's take a look at the vocabulary. Record the partial products to solve. They must be able to draw an area model first to support your work, or draw the area model last to check your work. And so the bottom line is they must have an area model to show their work. And so this is going to be 2-digit times 2-digit, and they must be able to draw an area model. Okay, I got the idea. 2-digit times 2-digit and an area model. So our numbers that they're using, I see a 2, 6, a 4, 3, a 1, 7, a 5, 5. Kids love 5s. They're not big fans of 7s, so it's probably why they put in the 5s. All right. Okay, so I know what I'm teaching. Now I'm going to go back. So multiply 2-digit by 2-digit numbers using 4 partial products. All right, but we also know in that exit ticket it said that we must be able to draw an area model. All right, so now I'm going to bring up the problem set. And this is the part that the kids have to do. All right, and what I'm wanting you to notice is how Eureka Math, how the problems increase in, how they progress and they go from simple to complex. So let's even look here at A to B, the difference from A to B. In each of the 2 models pictured below, write the expressions that determine the area of each of the 4 smaller rectangles. And so if you look at the first one, is showing each and every single one of the squares inside of the area model. Over here on the second one, we'll call it the second one, it's using the numbers. And so the kids need to know that the 4 is going to go over here on the left, 10 on the top, 2 on the top. All right. And so this represents 12 times 14. And so the one on the left is showing us each of the individual squares because the kids are used to using an area model. And an area model has all of those squares to be able to tell me how many square feet, square inches, square whatever the area is of this rectangle. As we move to the right, though, it's taken those squares away and it's moved it to just the numbers and shading. All right. Now let's come on down here to number 2. Let's come on down to number 2 for a second. By the way, on section B here, then it takes it apart. So 14 times 12. I know that that's going to be 4 times 10 and 4 times 2. So that's what they're looking for. And then plus 10 times 10 plus 10 times 2. So it's totally broken it out for me in the distributive property manner. Now in number 2, how did it get progressively more difficult compared to up there with number 1? Okay, so no squares, like over here on the left. On the right, there was some shading to show the 2 different numbers. And, oops, sorry about that. And they put the numbers around the perimeter, if you will. And so now the kids have to totally take that 14 apart and take the 22 apart and put it going around the perimeter. Let's also take a look, how did it progress over here on the right with the math problem? Up above in letter B, they use the distributive property. And so it's written going horizontal. And then down here on number 2, it's written going vertical. And so the kids are going to have to transfer that information and going from horizontal to going vertical. And so you're seeing the progression here. Let's come on down. Now what happened on 3? It just plain gave us the math problem. Look at 3 and 4 both. And what are they asking the kids to do? Draw an area model. All right. Visualize the area model. So do they want them to use it? No, they want them to visualize it. Now it says here, you may sketch an area model if it helps. All right, so now let's talk about this. In Eureka Math, they do everything in groups of 3, all right? And so we're going to look and see if we can figure out what are the problems that the kids must do, because this whole math sheet here is only to take them about 10 minutes. Yeah, that would be very difficult to do, this whole math sheet in 10 minutes. And so we need to take a look at it and say, okay, we have 10 minutes. What math problems must my students be able to do to be successful on that exit ticket? Well, if you ask me, it's right here, it's 3 and 4. Because on that exit ticket, they have to take a 2-digit times 2-digit, and they have to draw an area model. So I'm gonna make sure that when that 10 minutes starts, kids, we have to do number 3, we have to do number 4 today. If we're successful with these, we're gonna be successful on that exit ticket. All right, so those are the must-dos. And then their second area that they call it are the could-dos. Well, we could warm up the class with these 2. We could do this. We could say, all right, I think my kids have a really good understanding. I don't think I need to do the one here on the left. I could just take a look at this one on the right and say, okay, kids, let's take a look at this. What math problem do you see here? So 10 plus 2, I see 12. 10 plus 4, I see 14. And so this math problem for this area model would be 12 times 14. All right, let's take that information. Oops, sorry about that. And let's come on down here to number 2. And so we could do number 2 as a whole class. I could kind of set it up. Okay, we have 14 times 22. Let this kind of guide you. How are you going to make 14? How are you going to make 22 on this area model? Do you see something that they carried down? Eureka Math is wonderful about this. Take a look. We have 14 over here. Could the students put 14 on the left? Absolutely. And that's times 22. Well, we had 12 up here. And so instead of 10, we could say 20, right? And so just come on down. All right, guys, let's make this 22. So do you see how the progression is there? It's very intentional how Eureka Math puts this math together, how it progresses from one to the other. And so then we could say, all right, let's take a look at this math problem right here. So that 14, that was 4 times 10, all right? And it was 4 times, let me come back up here. So it's 4 times 10, and it was 4 times 2. All right, let's take a look at this. So this 14 times 22, that's 4 times 2, and that's 4 times 20. And so we could write down the two math problems down here and then leave it for the kids to take it from there on their own. All right, so that is the could do that we could do as a whole class, just to make sure. Is everybody there? Everybody ready to go? And then must do. Your students must do numbers 3 and 4. Now your extension, because you're going to have some kids in your class who are like, I got this, Mrs. Kemsey, I totally understand it. Super fantastic. Then the extension is they could do 42, or excuse me, number 5 and number 6 on their own. So they could take their math even further. So that's the must do, the could do, and the extension. You need to be intentional. You've already looked at gosh, I didn't mean to go there, I'm sorry. You looked at the exit ticket already. You know what the students must be able to do. Your exit ticket, that is the must do. Again, when you looked at that problem set, that would be very difficult to be able to complete in 10 minutes and be successful. If I said on your mark, get set, go, you guys have 10 minutes, good luck. You're going to have some kids wanting up their paper and saying, forget it, I can't do this in 10 minutes. And so you just created a lot of anxiety and maybe even some anger in some of your kids. Be intentional. You know what's on the exit slip. Be intentional of what you teach for the problem set. But you must do what you could do, and then how can you extend it? And so that is being prepared. That is customizing the math lesson. We totally skipped this one on the left. We only looked at this one on the right, took that information, and we applied it down here to number 2. Customize, be prepared. Maybe your class is really, really struggling on this idea and you can't skip it. All right, so again, know your kids, be prepared, customize as you need. Again, you're going to look at that exit slip. I cannot express that enough. All right, your exit slip is your roadmap. It's telling you how you're going to get from lesson 1 to lesson 36. I can't remember how many lessons there were altogether. Make sure you tweak it and make it so it works for your kids. On the fluency, I want to bring this up and talk to you about something here. I'm hoping one of these is a, hold on here. I'm wanting to show you a sprint. And so let me come back up here to the right. And we're going to go back. I want to bring up a sprint and show you, and of course, none of these are sprints at this moment. Of course not. I am sorry. Okay, we're going to go back. I believe this very first one was a sprint. Yes, here we go. Okay. Sprints are something that you're going to do often. The kids even have a separate math book that's nothing but sprints. And these cause a lot of anxiety in a lot of people. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so we can see the whole thing here on the screen. Hopefully you're able to see problems 1 to 44. What I always want you to look at with these sprints, and sprints are 2 pages long. So there's part A and then there's part B. Part A is to warm them up, and part B is to, all right, now we're warmed up, ready, here we go. Do you have to do both parts? No. If they cause too much anxiety in your classroom, no, of course not. You could take part A, tear it out, send it home with the kids. Guys, practice this tonight, and tomorrow we're going to do part B. Okay, so that's one way to do it. You're not taking a grade on a sprint. You're not taking a grade. But what I want you to notice, and the reason I made it so it all fits onto one page, this particular sprint is 44 problems long. Sprints are cut into 4 different areas, and not always evenly. So 44 divided by 4, of course, that would mean 11, 11, 11, 11. Sometimes it is that even, but most of the time it is not. What we're looking at is that the sprints start off with, again, that find the ladder, some doable math problems that a lot of the kids can do, like 2 times 10. The kids actually learned that one back in 2nd grade, all right? And so it's starting off with a very doable math problem. And then as you go up the ladder, it's getting more and more difficult. I mean, my goodness, look at number 44, 140 divided by 10. And so what I think is always fun to look at, and I think it's great to involve the kids in this as well, is that it changes from one level of ability to another level of ability. So a DOK 1 to a DOK 2, 3, and 4. So let's take a look at this and see where do we think it changes from DOK 1 to a DOK 2 to a DOK 3 to a DOK 4. And when I look at this, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm like, holy cow, I think that's pretty doable, even for our lowest of our low children. 1 times 10, most of our children can do that at the 4th grade level. Now, let's take a look at number 6. It changes to division. And then when we come on down to number 11, we're back to multiplication times 10. Kids love those. We come on down to 15 and it's times 10. Look at 16, it becomes a division with 10. So I'm going to say that to number 20, most of our kids will find that doable. Most of our kids, all right? Most of them will find that very doable. So I'm going to say that that is part 1. So if you have a child in your classroom who's struggling in mathematics, you could just walk up to them and give them a yellow sticky note and say, today when we do the sprint, I want you to do 1 through 20. Don't do any more than that. Don't. Of course, they'll be like, oh, please, I can do it. Nope. Only if you're brave enough. And then you could have those kids in your classroom that are in the gifted education group or, are just very intelligent, very, very good at math facts. And you could say, you know what, your job today is to do numbers and give them from 21 to 44. You don't even have to do the first 20 today, okay? And so you could give different groups different things to do. So if you take a look at number 21, you're missing part of the math problem. So in the multiplication, you're missing a factor. And then when you come up here, that stops at 25. And so that's actually pretty difficult for the kids. You're going to give them some division problems here to go, all right, here's division again, you ready? And then boom, they're going to smack them again with, what is it here, about 4 or 5 math problems where they're missing a factor. And then, so I would say that that is another level of difficulty right there. And then 70 divided by 10, 90 divided by 10, all the way down to number 44. I would say that maybe on this particular sprint, there's only 3 different levels of difficulty. Most of the time there are 4, but I would say on this one, I would go with maybe 3. All right, that missing number that's inside of the math problem itself, that missing factor, is very difficult to so many of our children. And that is preparation and customization of our Eureka math lesson. One of the things that I do want to show you before we totally take off happens to be the math program that's called Embark Online. And the reason I want to show you this is we have Promethean boards in all of our classrooms. And so Embark is a math district out in California. And so please understand that this is all for a math district in California. And so it's set up with the California standards, not the Kansas assessments or standards, okay? So I just showed you 4th grade, Module 3, and we looked at lesson number 36. Remember that? And so we're looking at right here, something, whoops, I did not mean to click on that. Our district has bought for every teacher, every single one of the modules, and has bought for all the children the workbook. They call it a journal. Not all districts do that. And I have a feeling that this Embark, that they did not buy the books for them because they have the application problem here. Well, the application problem's in our children's math book, okay? So you don't need to worry about it here. What I do really, really, really like, though, happens to be their newsletter. So if I click on the newsletter, I think they're fantastic. I used to run these off for my students and run them off front and back. This is the newsletter that's just for Topic A. Now, I know it's the parent newsletter, but this is for my kids, my children, to learn. And so I ran it off for them. We put it into a sleeve protector. They kept it in their math book, and they brought it out to help them in understanding the math better. Meanwhile, I've emailed this home to all the parents because we have their email addresses. All right, and so this has been emailed to the parents, but my students have a copy of it again in a sleeve protector. And this will help them in getting through Module A. All right. So there you go. And just so happens, one of the math problems involves the movie theater screen in the gymnasium. So I think it's quite coincidental that they use that as an example right here. Very coincidental, right? Okay, so we just talked about lesson number 36. So I'm going to buzz on down here. I can look over here on the right. It's sometimes a little bit easier. And I'm going to click right there on lesson 36. By clicking on lesson 36, I can use the menu bar over here on the right to just go a little bit faster. All right, I'm wanting the Promethean flip chart. So I'm going to click on the Promethean flip chart. And that's what we have. Their school district has made flip charts for every single lesson from kindergarten up. Sorry, preschool, they didn't make them for them. So all I have to do is click right here on this link. And it's going to ask me to download. And so I'm going to download it. It takes just a moment. Sure, that looks like a great name for it. And there we are. It's been downloaded. I'm going to go ahead and bring it up and show you, and then I'm going to have to switch my screen view. So I just click on it. It downloads down below. Active Inspire is going to show up on my screen. And just like that, it's been loaded on my screen. So to show it to you, I'm going to, change the view here. So hopefully everybody is seeing this. So this is the Promethean board. And the entire math lesson for Module 3, Lesson 36, is right here as a Promethean flip chart for you. All right? So it's all right here. So that's part of the fluency lesson. Fluency. And here's getting into, there's your application problem. What I want to point out to you is right here. Notice how it looks like part of the writing is missing. I'm going to take my mouse up, and there is a blue snowflake right over here. I'm going to click on that blue snowflake. It became orange. I'm going to click right here. I'm just going to make it a little bit larger. Boom, now I can read it. That says redraw right. Before I go any further, I'm going to turn that blue snowflake back on. All right. What I tell everybody to do is, before you go any further with this, go up and click File, Save As, and make it your own copy. That way you can make any adjustments to this, and you save it from year after year after year. It's yours. You don't have to go and download it now every single day. After the problem set comes, or excuse me, after the application problem comes the concept development. So this is the part that you get to teach to the kids. Now remember, we talked about this yesterday. You're going to read that ahead of time. You're going to know ahead of time what is it that you need to say as a classroom teacher. Now that you have this downloaded, you could actually type it on here. What do you want to say? You could put your question on here. And here's more of it. And again, you could put your question on here, or put the words that you want to make sure that you say to the children. You can put it right here. I've even sometimes put them, I've created my own little um, paper over here, like my own Post-it note, and then click on the typewriter, clicked on here and typed on top of it. And the kids are like, Mrs. Kimsey, you have a Post-it note. I know, we need to make sure we talk about this. So that's one way that you can add the Post-it notes. And then again, you're saving it so you have it year after year after year. And if tonight you get home from work and you're like, you know what, that wasn't the question I needed, just pull it up, change the question, change it to what did you need? And so we're just going to go through again. This is, doesn't that look familiar? That's your problem set. So the must do's and the could do's, remember that? And then getting into, so here's your must do. So kids, you must be able to do these. And maybe you just want to remember, this is what I must do. Okay, so then maybe you want to put a star beside it or something and say, guys, we want to make sure that we can do this one and this one today so we can be successful on the exit tickets. These are the two we must be good at. And then this is where we can talk. All right, guys, what was really doable? Don't say easy, because for somebody in the classroom, they're still struggling. What was so doable today? What was difficult? And so we could add our notes right here. All right, so here's our exit ticket, and they're ready to go with it. They're going to use an area model. We've practiced the area model. They're ready to go. All right, that's what I wanted to show you today. The big thing is that the very first step that we looked at, though, the very first step, we looked at the exit ticket, and that's where we're going to end at right here. Before you teach a lesson, please look at the exit ticket. That's your objective. The exit ticket is your objective. So we have to be able to do a 2-digit times 2-digit and using the 4 partial products. And they recommend that you use an area model to be your tool to help you with this, to be the representational part, okay? All right, well, thank you so much. That was today's lesson, part 2. Tune in again later for part 3. It was a joy being with you. Thank you. Again, I'm Diane Kimsey, and I am your math consulting teacher. Thank you. Bye-bye.